Yeah.
So, been working on this cab now for the last week. You can see it's still up in the air. So, last Wednesday, me and my brother picked it up, lowered it down, and I was anticipating it to be easy because last time it was easy, and ran into a lot of fitment issues that I didn't see. I guess part of that is because I only lined up one bolt, and I was like, yeah, look at this, I can fit my whole arm back here. So that was not the case when you go to line up the rest of the bolts. This mount here was hitting right there, so you can see I trimmed off a little bit on that side to clearance that. The back of the head here was hitting, the back of the head here was hitting. This mount here was still hitting. Oh, that's still wet. That's cool. So I cut that down, and hopefully that fits now. See where it was hitting, right there. You could actually like feel it on the inside of the floor if you ran your hand across it. You could feel the bump. The cab right here was hitting this bolt here. We managed to get the dipstick tube mangled up underneath. There used to be, wow, I'm like pointing, I'm down here looking with the camera and I'm up here talking, but like on that side there's kind of a lip. I pounded that lip back and the dipstick tube got crammed up underneath that lip, and so now that's kind of mangled, but it should still function, I suppose. We'll find out. So cut this bolt down, try to make a little bit of room. Still didn't have enough room, so I ended up having to pull the cab back off and cut a bunch of stuff out, pound a bunch of stuff, weld a piece of metal in, drop the cab down again. Was still hitting, so we ended up with this giant hole here, which I'm gonna fill from the in. Holy cow! Okay. It's really cold out, so things aren't functioning properly, like my brain. We're gonna end up making like a small doghouse cover on the inside because fuel returns right here, so it'll make it a lot easier to bleed the fuel system in the future and kind of flush fuel through the head if I can get to that fitting and pull it off and put my brake bleeder on it. So I'd like to leave that accessible. So now I have this giant hole. I think I'm gonna use, there's a cover that goes here, and I believe I'm going to just kind of make an extension of that cover that's going to kind of go up and cover this hole. So if I ever need to like service something here, I just pull that whole cover off and I can get to the back side of the head. So should all work out. It's actually why I have the light there, is to help kind of dry things. I ended up having to beat the crap out of this too and smash that in quite a bit further to make clearance. Sucked because I like got all this heat wrap stuff and put it on there and it all looked really cool, and then like the first time I dropped the cab down, it like scraped it all off, and now it doesn't want to stick very good because it's so cold, and I lost a whole sheet of it. So that's cool. It'll all work out in the end, but just been kind of a frustrating week because I was expecting like a couple hours to have the cab on, bolted down, ready to go on to the next thing. I don't even know what the next thing is. It's like about 10 next things. So, but now that all that is cut out, those are cut, should be able to drop her down and bolt it down. It's lots of fun living on a hill too, because every time I pull the cab off, my rear cab mounts fall out, and then they start rolling down the driveway, and I end up chasing them down the driveway like a fool. Yesterday, a car ran over one, so that was cool. So, but we're doing something here. So, give that a few minutes here to dry, and then we'll start dropping the cab down. Finding bolts is always fun for body lifts because no one seems to stock a 10-inch 7/16 bolt. So rather than order like the right size bolts, because it's hard to kind of tell because they don't thread the whole thing, you know, they only thread like the last half an inch and be like, good luck. So I got some threaded rod, and before you start writing those comments about using threaded rod, this is B7 threaded rod. I never heard of such a thing. For all I know, it could be someone could be pulling a fast one on me here. So it's B7 threaded rod, which from what I read on the internet is some sort of alloy, and it's supposed to be between grade 7 and 8, I think, or 5 and 8, something like that. I don't know, but it's supposed to be like strong, like bull. Just this was a fiasco too, this stupid threaded rod. I ordered an 8-foot stick of 7/16 20. I waited and waited and waited. Finally this little box shows up, and I'm like, well, this should be the threaded rod, but there's no way they fit an 8-foot stick of threaded rod inside that tiny box. I open it up, and this is what they sent me. I'm not even sure what size that is, but it's a little bit bigger than 7/16. So I contacted them, and they're like, we screwed up. You go ahead and keep that. We'll give you your money back. I'm like, well, what about the threaded rod that I ordered? I still need that. Like, I appreciate this free threaded rod that I'll never use, but can I get the stuff that I ordered? So they're like, yeah, never mind. We'll send you whatever you ordered. So then it gets here, and I realized that I screwed up, and I needed coarse thread, and I ordered fine threaded. So I can still use it for the rear cab mounts and then the front, the radiator core support thingamabob. But if you remember, I welded the nuts into between the floor and the cab support on the front cab mount. So I'm gonna have to find some bolts for that. Tractor Supply actually was the only place that I could find anything like long in that size. So even like Fastenal, they didn't have anything. I mean, they could order it, but I don't have time to wait. So I'm gonna have to order some new bolts for the front. I tried to like retap the nuts that are in there to 20, and that just wasn't going well. And I figured I'd give up while I was ahead, instead of completely screwing up those nuts and then having to cut a hole in my floor. So, yeah, fun times. Very exciting stuff. And then yesterday it started, or not yesterday, the day before it started to like pour, and I had tools everywhere. So I set up this sweet lean-to. It's perfect. So it takes all the rainwater that falls and puts it right into my garage. So, yeah. That's what all the buckets are for. I had the buckets catching the rain. See, it was on purpose. It's a rainwater collection system to water my garden. Got to keep the pumpkins growing somehow. Okay, bye.